Hey there, welcome to this short version of the walk cycle tutorial. In this video, we'll go over the high level concepts of how to create a walk cycle in Rive and some of the things that you can do to change up the walk cycle to convey different moods. If you're looking for the long form tutorial, I'll link it up at the top and down in the description so you can find that and watch that later. So with that being said, let's get into it. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do is set up our timeline. Now, I typically use a 3-second long timeline and then create a work area that's centered on the timeline so that later on, after I've animated the entire character, I can offset all of those keys to make sure that my timing is correct on everything. Okay, so now that we have our timeline set up, we can actually start animating the character. The first thing that we're going to do is animate the legs, and we're going to focus on the X-axis first. I want to set up two different poses. One is with the front leg, or the leg that's closest to the camera, at the back position, and the opposite leg in the forward position. You can do it in reverse if you want. So I set that up at the beginning, and then somewhere like halfway between our work area, I set the opposite pose, and again, just focusing on the X-axis, and then copy the first keys, paste them to the end so that we get a nice loop. Once we have that, then we can go in and adjust our easing and make sure that the motion that we're creating, we're actually happy with. Once the X-axis is done, we can move on and animate the Y. So I'm going to focus on one leg at a time and just make sure that when the leg gets to the back, we pull it up off the ground and it comes back down to rest where the opposite pose or where the pose changes to the opposite side. So for the back leg, since it's starting at the back, I'm going to pull it up off the ground after about 10 frames and then make sure it comes back down on the ground somewhere in the middle of the timeline, and then do the same thing with the opposite leg. Now, once the Y-axis is animated, the next thing I want to do is animate the rotation of that heel group, because that will actually make our toe look like it's pushing off the ground. So I'll start with the front leg, get that animated, and then copy those keys and paste it onto my back leg so I don't have to go in and make sure I'm getting the right timing and easing and all of that. Once the rotation of the foot is animated, the next thing that we can do is animate the Y position of the body. And really, we just want it to go down when that front leg hits the ground, and then come back up at the opposite pose. So it's usually 3 keys for each part of the loop. Now, once the body's animated, the next thing that we want to do is animate the arms. So I animate them on the X-axis first, and then I animate the rotation so that we get the swinging of the arms. And then typically I'll animate the lower arm bone to give it a little bit of follow-through action, and then adjust the timing and easing of everything. Once the arms are animated, then it's time to animate the chest and the head. And I just want to add a little bit of a bob that sort of matches up with the Y-axis of the body moving up and down. After all that's animated, the next thing that I want to do is offset my keys. I don't want all of my arms, legs, hips, chest, and head animating and finishing at the same time. So I offset things so that the hips animate first, then the feet, then the legs, and then the chest and head react to the Y position of the entire body. So with that being done, our normal walk cycle is finished. Now, if you want to change up your walk cycle to convey some different moods, the first thing that you can work with is the pose of the character. If you want something more aggressive, lean the character forward. If you want something more relaxed, lean the character back. And then, something that's more neutral is going to be somewhere in the middle where your character's body is sort of straight up and down. The next thing that you can do is change up the timing and easing of your keys. So something that's more aggressive is going to have strong ease in and ease out curves. Something that's more relaxed is going to have more of a standard easing curve. You can also add some different keys and just change the overall timing of things. Another thing that you can do that isn't really an animation trick is to change up the facial expression of your character. The facial expression is going to convey a lot about the mood and how the character is feeling, and that'll just match the overall motion and really sell that mood that you're trying to convey. Okay, That's it for this video. I hope you learned something. If you're interested in the long form tutorial, remember it's linked down in the description. You can check that out to see exactly how I created everything. If you have any questions, leave us a comment and I'll try to get back to those as quickly as possible. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you in the next one.